All right, so this is my penultimate lecture. And so tomorrow will be the last one. But today I'm going to talk about managing your career. And the reason I do this one, even though it's something that really won't have impact on you for probably several years, I just this was a big issue that I ran into at Google as a manager, second level manager, director. Uh, I just noticed and had so many junior engineers come in to talk to me about their career, and I realized that they really had incredibly unrealistic expectations of what should happen in their career progress. And so I put this together just to kind of set expectations. And so I'll just go through it. You can ask questions if you want. I find that people don't usually ask questions on this one. You're welcome to. I mean, it'd be awesome if you did. But because they're sitting there thinking, well, I don't need to know and worry about this for years. And that's true, but I just do think it's good for you to have the expectations set. So here you go. I'm going to talk about what a typical career path is, about how long it takes to get through it, and then things you can do to make sure that your career is always progressing. And then I close it off with a fun little discussion about what happens if you decide things aren't going well and you need to change companies. And so that's the lecture for today. All right. So who's responsible for you advancing in your career?
Yourself.
Yourself, not your manager.
Oh.
Many people think that it is their manager who should be deciding whether or not you get promoted, how if your career progresses properly, and if the things aren't going well, they blame their manager, change teams, change companies because their manager didn't get them promoted or whatever it was, wouldn't give them the work that they thought that they deserved, or didn't get pay raises and so on. But actually, it's really not your manager who's in charge of this. It's you. As Caroline said, it really is you. You're responsible for making sure that you are advancing in your career and you're doing the things necessary. Now, you may not be the sole person making the decision as to whether or not you get promoted. In fact, you almost certainly will not be. You may not be the person who even decides whether you go up for promotion, though in some companies it is that way, and others it isn't. At Google, you were taken up for promotion if you decided to. Your manager had no say on whether or not you went for promotion. You made the decision, but it's not that way at all companies. At many companies, it's the manager who decides whether or not you should be considered for promotion. But anyway, you're really the one who's in charge. Now, the manager and HR are there to help you and to give you any suggestions and guidance that you should need. So they're a resource for you. So don't ignore them. But at the end of the day, it's you who is in charge. So here we go. Having said that, I just want to make sure, or I just want to go through and say, here's a typical career path. How does it usually go along the journey? And when you go into a company and you hear all people's titles and so on, what does it mean? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what the typical career path is. Now, I have to point out that titles in the software industry are different from company to company. A lot of the big companies will have not only a title, but a level that goes with it. Mm-hmm. And I have also found that level number is vastly different across different companies. Like Microsoft's is very, very different than Amazon's, which is closer to Google's, but they're shifted and so on. So, there's really no way to know. You can't go up to somebody and say, oh, I'm a senior engineer, and they immediately know what that means. In order to describe this, made up names. These are similar to the ones that were used at Google, but they're not identical to what was used at Google. But what I have found is that while the names can change, the responsibilities that go along with the name are pretty consistent across the board. So this is what, while you can just look at the names as an example, the tasks and the responsibilities that go with them will be pretty consistent across companies. So let me start. I just used Junior, mid-level, senior, and staff. I've actually never heard of mid-level as an actual title. Oh, I'm a
I've seen
mid-level
those.
engineer. I don't know what that means, but I just used that because I didn't think of a better name.
I've seen those on the job posts.
A mid-level?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so anyway, these are the names I gave them. And I'll just talk about them. So first of all, you're junior, which means you're just starting. You're not expected to be able to do things on your own. Everybody understands that, especially for the first 3 months or so, you're really in a learning mode. Then you're kind of in an execution mode, but you're always given support by somebody more senior than you to help you understand what to do, how to do the work, and what it is that you should be doing. So usually as a junior, you are given detailed tasks. So you're told, okay, write this code, or solve this small problem, or figure out how to fix, a lot of the times it's fix these bugs. And so you're given these tasks, and you're usually given the resources and information necessary to help you be successful on that. Now you're expected to be self-directed so that you can do things on your own. So that you are doing things without somebody sitting at your computer and telling you what to type all the time. So you're self-directed, write this code, and then you're expected to sit down and figure out how to write it and produce it. But you will be given, there'll be detailed tasks with enough information to help you be successful. So that's a junior level. After you've done that for a while and gotten pretty good at that, then you'll be considered to either get promoted or at least spoken of as if you're a mid-level engineer. So in a mid-level engineer, instead of being given detailed tasks, you're often given features to work on. For example, we need a feature of the user able to add a product to their shopping cart from the shopping cart page, or whatever, to increase the quantity of items in their shopping cart. Okay, that's a feature. You're given that feature. Usually it'll be like either a front end feature or a back end feature. It's not usually going to be full stack for a mid-level person. You'll be doing in one or the other, but you'll be told to do that feature. And then you'll have to sit there and think, okay, if they're going to increase or change the quantity in their shopping cart, then I'm going to need buttons. Usually you'll be given the spec for that, the UI. You say, okay, I need to implement the buttons. I need to figure out the state. I need to figure out what API calls to make, and so on. And you'll kind of break it down into tasks like that. And then you'll sit down and you'll implement those tasks and execute them on your own. Okay, so that's a mid-level engineer. Next, after that will be a senior engineer. A senior engineer is given more projects instead of features. So, for example, implement. We have a project that our website, our e-com site is still in process, and we need somebody to build the whole shopping cart. And so your goal will be to do the entire shopping cart. So you'll have to you'll look at that through, and you'll break that down into features. Okay, I have a feature that I need to be able to add to the shopping cart, remove from the shopping cart, display the shopping cart, things like that. And you'll figure out all the different features that need to be done, and then those features get broken down into tasks, and the tasks get executed. And you will often do a lot of that as a senior developer. You'll be figuring out what it goes, kind of how the system is going to fit together, how when does the database gets used, when does it not? Does this go in local storage? Does it go here? And you'll figure all those things out. Often a senior engineer is working with a team, like a small team, leading 3 or 4 people, and you'll be working on with that team, executing on this feature, on this project. All right, so that's a senior engineer. The next one I've identified here is called staff engineer. And in a staff engineer is not usually given a project. Instead, they're given a problem. hey, we've noticed that people put stuff in their shopping cart and then they never actually purchase it.
Oh,
Why not? What can we do to solve that problem?
Yeah.
And so, or maybe the problem's a technical problem. We found that, 1% of all orders that we place never get fulfilled. What's going wrong? Things like that. So you'll be given a problem to solve. You'll have to do research, usually talking to product managers or other teams, figuring out what it is that's going wrong or what it is that you need to do in order to solve that problem. And then you'll figure out, okay, in order to solve this problem, we need you'll identify a bunch of projects that need to be done in order to solve that problem using multiple projects. Those projects will then be given to senior engineers who will then work with their team in order to implement those things. So staff engineers often don't manage. Sometimes they do. They often will manage. Sometimes they don't. But again, they're just trying to solve these problems that the company has identified. And then the level above that, which I didn't mention here, is your job is usually not to solve problems, but to identify problems. And you'll spend a lot of time, really analyzing and understanding the system or the market. And you'll say, oh, you know what? I was doing some research and I discovered that 1% of our shopping carts never actually, or of our orders never actually get fulfilled. Things like that. And then you'll and so on. So that's kind of where it is there. All right. So that's kind of how you'll progress through your career. Now, the biggest question, people often understand these, maybe not in that kind of detail, but they'll often understand, that as I get up, I'm doing more and more of my responsibilities are improving. Where I run into the most problem with mostly junior engineers or engineers new to the company is they don't understand how long it takes to get from one to the other. So I'm hired as a junior engineer. How long until I feel I should start feeling like I'm maybe a mid-level engineer? How long until I'm a senior and a staff? So, and when should I expect to get those promotions? Pay raises are usually come along once a year. I've noticed as time has gone on, those pay raises have gotten smaller and smaller, but they still do happen. And they're not necessarily related to your title or your career.
Really?
Yeah. For example, if you're a junior and you've been there and the yearly raises come out, you can get a pay raise even without getting a change in title or a promotion. And at Google, it's interesting because you'll get a promotion into a different level with a higher pay scale, but you don't get a raise at the same time. You just get the title.
Oh.
And it's not until the next pay raise cycle when you actually get the pay raise.
Oh.
So anyway, here we go. Here's our time at level. The time that it takes depends an awful lot on the company you're in, on the opportunities that are available. You might be able to execute as a senior engineer and run a team, but there aren't any teams at your company that need somebody to run them. And so, it will really depend a lot. At Google, they would actually promote you even if the opportunities weren't there. So you'd at least have the title, even though your responsibilities may not change for a little bit. But here we go. Usually you start at the company and they'll say, okay, your next promotion cycle will often take 2 to 3 years. Okay, so I can be at the junior level for 2 to 3 years. Sometimes 1 year if you're doing really, really well, or in companies that do that, but typically it takes 2 to 3 years to get from the junior level to the mid-level. Once you're at mid-level, then it will often take an additional 3 to 5 years until you're up there at able to be promoted to senior. And once you're a senior, that getting to staff can take a long time. That often will take 5 to 10 years. Okay, so I got to staff engineer after I'd been in the industry for probably 15 years. And so that if you add this up, that's about what it comes to. So that was about right. So this is also about what my career path went like was this long. But this wasn't just taking my personal experience with me and writing it down is looking broadly across all the places I've worked and what was happening in Google, among other things. Okay. So that's kind of what you can expect. Okay. All right. So having done that, I just want to make sure expectations are set so that people don't go in thinking, I mean, I had so many junior engineers come into my office and say, I've been here for 6 months and I haven't been promoted yet. What's going on? What?
Really?
What made you think you should be promoted after 6 months? Well, I'm awesome. That's usually what it would be accompanied with, though they wouldn't put it that way. It's basically what they were saying. All right, here we go. So now that you know how it goes, what do you do to make sure your career is always moving forward and that you're advancing your career? What will most affect your career? That's the big question. What can I do that will most impact my career? And again, looking back on all of my experience, I've come to the realization that in most places and most companies, it's your peers, the opinion of your peers, who make the biggest difference on your ability to get promotion.
Oh.
And I like that because it's easy to brown nose the manager and to fool them into thinking that you're some awesome person that really produces, but it's almost impossible to fool your peers. Okay. So if I'm working really hard when the manager's there, or I'm secretly taking credit for work that other people do, the manager might have this really high opinion of me, but my peers will know. If I'm working only, if I'm not getting my work done, I'm not getting things done, they have to pick up the slack, they know. And so they will have an impact on your career. They'll let your boss know, and or other ways that that their opinion will make a big difference. So the most important thing, in my opinion, on making sure your career goes is making sure that you have a good reputation with your peers, which is also awesome. At Google, they said this is don't be a jerk. Jerks don't get promoted. And so if you have a good reputation among your careers, you'll do well, or sorry, among your peers, you'll do well in your career. And so make sure you get a good reputation for being a hard worker, for getting things done and doing things well. All right, so that's good. So, and it's actually, that is what makes work environments wonderful. If you're trying hard to make sure that you have a good reputation and with your peers and a good relationship with your peers, and they're doing the same thing, then it makes for a wonderful work environment. All right. So, and what is it that you should be worrying about? Delivering. I've told you my just deliver story, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the big thing. Just deliver. Nothing else. I mean, if you're a jerk, if you yell at people or whatever, or it will hurt your reputation a lot. But the biggest thing that will enhance your reputation is delivering, getting things done. Not just getting them done, but getting them done well. Get things done and get them done well. And that is what people will really learn to respect and enjoy. Okay. All right. So here's things that you can do that will help. I like this one. Under promise, over deliver. What does that mean? I'm sure you've heard that. So often that's easiest to explain in like scheduling. So someone comes to you and says, Caroline, I have this task that I want you to get done. How long is it going to take? And you look and you think, I can probably do that in 3 days. But in order to really give a good impression, I'm going to tell them I can get it done in 2. Okay. So you do the work, you do the work, you do the work, you get done in 3 days. All right. What does your boss think? Oh, she's late. All right. So now you look at it and you say, I think I can get that done in 3 days. You work hard, you get it, and you tell your boss, I'll get it done in 3 days. You work hard, you get it done in 3 days. Great. So the boss says, oh, good. She got done what she said in on time. That's awesome. Now, suppose you look at it and you say, I think I can get it done in 3 days, but there's some uncertainties here and I'm just not sure. I'm going to hedge my bets. I'm going to tell my boss 4 days. And so now you go and do the work, you get it done in 3 days.
Mm.
What does your boss think?
Oh, she's fast.
You're a hero.
You're a hero.
Okay. So in all three of those scenarios, the work got done in 3 days. In the first one where I overpromised, I look bad. In the one where I delivered exactly as I said, I look good. And the case where I underpromised and over-delivered, I look great. So you want to do that, but you have to be careful. You have to be careful because you shouldn't lie. You shouldn't tell them, oh, I can get it done in 3 days, but I'll tell them 5. Because they might look at you and say, this is really a 3-day task. What is she doing saying 5? No, I don't trust her. So anyway, so you have to be careful about that, but you want to underpromise because things happen. I ran into a problem. I told them 3 days and a problem happened. I thought I could get it done in 3 days. Something came up. I got busy. I couldn't figure out how to solve this problem. I had to go get help or whatever. And I ended up delivering it in 4 days. At least you then delivered it in the amount of time that you said. So you look good. So you do need to be careful, but it's always best to underpromise. Okay. All right. Now the next thing, make sure that you're always making progress on your assignments. Even if you get distracted, other things come up, you're doing something, you're struggling with trying to figure out something. At the end of every day, you should be able to go home and say, yes, I got this, and this done on this assignment. I didn't get as much done as I wanted, but at least I got something done. And if you do that, you're going to eventually end up delivering it. So just try to make sure that you're making progress every day, sometimes better than others, but just always making progress. All right, next, get to know your peers and your coworkers. Again, they have the biggest influence on you, on your career. And so you need to get to know them. You need to get to know them personally, get to know how to interact with them, how to work with them, how to get things done, and forge a good relationship with them. Okay, that's very, very important. This is actually the area in my life where I have struggled the most because I am naturally extraordinarily shy and introverted. And you may not understand that right now, but it's only in the last few years that I've been able to fix that. And I feel like if I had really known how to get along better with people and been able to reach out and build relationships, I would have had an even better career than I had. I love the career that I've had, but I think I could have done even better. For example, I have a friend. We were in a meeting and discussing how to implement something and how we should go about doing it. And we had a question about some technology that was done by a team who knows where. But we knew nothing, we had no relationship with them. Or so I thought. Until my friend piped up and said, oh, I'll just go ping my friend so-and-so who works on that team, and he'll let us know what we should do or how it works. Oh, okay, great. So I asked how he knows that guy. And he said, oh, I was just looking at through the design doc and stuff that they were doing, and I noticed his name, so I sent him a message. And he responded, and we had a nice conversation, and we built up a friendship. Oh my goodness, I could never have done that. That's way, way too bold for me. I could never have done that. But he did it, and it really benefited us that he had done that. So try to be more like him instead of like me. All right. Also, on this one, forge a good relationship with them. Doesn't mean you have to become their friends. One of the more common discussions I would have with people who'd come into my office, they'd come in and they'd shut the door and they'd say, I can't stand so-and-so. He's a jerk. He's really hard to work with. I can't deal with this. Fix it. Okay. And my answer was, usually lengthy, but in summary, it would go something like, you know what? I really don't care if you like him or not. It's not necessary for you to like the people you work with. What is necessary is that you know how to work with them. So learn how to work with them. You don't have to go out for beers after work. Just learn how to work with them. Okay. You don't have to become best friends. It's nice if your people you work with are your best friends, but that's not required. If you don't have at least some people there that are not good friends, you'll struggle there. But there will be those that you don't really like, but you do have to learn how to work. Okay. All right. Ask for help. Next, ask for help. Asking for help is a huge challenge to a lot of us. I think I've talked to you about this before, but just to kind of go over it again. We often don't ask for help because we're shy. We're afraid we'll look bad. We'll look like we're stupid. We're afraid of asking dumb questions. We're worried about bothering them too much and interfering with them. All these reasons. They're all wrong. You need to ask for help. And so you need to learn how to reach out and ask for help. If you can even reach across teams, like my friend did, reach across teams to somebody else and ask them for help. You'll often find people who are more than willing to help and that will. And by doing that, you can again forge these relationships. So my friend now had a relationship with somebody on a different team who could come in to provide support for promotions or getting things done or whatever else in cases where otherwise wouldn't have been able to. So ask for help from your peers. And then also on the other side, you notice that somebody's struggling. Hey, can I help with that? Don't force them to come to you first. Okay. All right. Next, you will have regular one-on-one meetings with your manager, assuming your manager is good. One of the guys I've been consulting with, mentoring for the last couple of years, was really struggling with his manager and couldn't figure out how to make progress on getting his career going and so on. And so I asked, well, when's the last time you met with him one-on-one? And he said, oh, he schedules them once a month. And the last two times he's skipped it. I said, oh, so it's been 3 months since you've had a one-on-one meeting with your manager. That's terrible. That manager should not be a manager. That is terrible. At Google, we were told to have at minimum a meeting with everybody on our team every other week. That was minimum. Best is to meet one-on-one with them once a week. So if you find yourself in that situation, that's a different problem. But if you have a good manager, you will be meeting with them regularly. And so I put together a list of things that you should do in these meetings with a manager. You go, you'll sit down, have a little discussion, whatever it is they want. But ultimately, you're going to be reporting on your assignment. This is the task I'm supposed to be doing. I'm about 2/3 done. I'm doing fine on it. Here's how it's going. I'm struggling in this area. Do you have any suggestions? I tell you, there is nothing more flattering to a manager than asking them for help and for ideas and suggestions. Many managers at many companies are not allowed to actually do technical work anymore. They, or even if they're allowed to, they don't have the time. So they lose touch with all of the technical stuff. And that's very painful for a lot of engineers to lose touch with that. So if you're asking them for help, here's what's going on. They love to hear that. They love to hear the details. And boy, I'm not quite sure how to approach this. They will just love to give you their suggestions and ideas on how to do it. Now, even if you're sitting there thinking, oh, you really don't remember how all this works anymore, do you? What you're suggesting is something I tried already and it just isn't going to work. That's okay. Just listen, take it in. Oh, those are great ideas, great suggestions. Think about it. And if you end up doing something different, that doesn't matter. The manager doesn't expect you to do what they say. They just like the opportunity for them to give you ideas and things to do. And often you will find that they do know an awful lot and that they will be able to give you ideas that will help you get through. All right. So you're going to report on your assignment, get suggestions and so on. And then next you're going to ask for an assessment of how you were doing. So here's where I am. Here's how I'm doing on my task. What do you think? How's it going? What do you think of how I'm performing? You need to ask that question. How do you think of how I'm performing? What's your assessment of how I'm doing? Maybe you don't ask this one every time, but you do need to get a good sense for what your manager thinks of you. It's very important that you understand what your manager thinks of you. And they'll tell you, if a good manager will anyway. A lot of managers are afraid of telling their employees the truth. That's another problem, but a good manager will tell you. oh, you're doing great in these areas. This one, you really need to work more on learning proper syntax or writing cleaner code, having fewer bugs. And so they'll give you the assessment of what they're doing, and they'll probably also give you advice on how to go about that. Learn to write cleaner code. Here's a book you can read. Here's somebody you can work with on code reviews, and so on. Okay, so just get an assessment and suggestions on how to improve, and then also make sure you're discussing the next steps in your career. Okay, so you think I'm doing all right? You think I'm getting ready for promotion? And what do I need to do in order to be ready for promotion? And so you'll discuss the next steps in their career. They'll usually give you some good advice on that. And if they don't, ask for the advice. How do I make those next steps? What do I do? If I'm getting close to being ready, what kinds of things do I need to have done? How do I go through the process? How do I get it all done? And so on. All right. And then the last one I note is it's a good opportunity to find out about how your company does career advancements, especially if they're saying, yeah, you're about ready for promotion. Okay, how do they do it here? What do I do? What's the process? What are the steps? And what do I learn? And they'll tell you. Like at Google, for example, there's a specific form you had to go fill out and check a box. This is I want promotion. And then once you did that, then you were supposed to go and gather up all the documents that you'd written, all the codes and stuff, and you would put together a packet that says, this is how I prove that I'm ready for promotion. And so I would tell them, these are the things that you need to do. These are the ways that you need to, these are the things you need to fill out. These are the people you need to go talk to and find out what they're thinking, and so on and so on. So they'll give you advice exactly on what's going on. Okay, so that's that section. Again, as in usual with these lectures, they could go an awful lot longer and give you more detail, but I'm just trying to give you a touch so that you'll have at least an idea of what's going on. So now the last one, this one was just more for fun, and sometimes you'll come to the conclusion that, I really do need to, I'm just not enjoying it here. I don't like where I'm at. Especially true for junior engineers, because what job offer should you take?
Any type of one.
Yeah, anyone someone will give you. Even if you think it's a terrible company, even if you're not sure you're going to like it, just get into the industry. It's so much easier to get your career going once you get that first step done. So don't worry about all of the concerns on that first step. Just take it. And then after you've been there for a while, then you might start thinking, okay, I've accomplished what I needed to here. I really don't like this company. I need to leave. These kinds of questions will come up. Sometimes you'll want to leave because you just don't, you don't feel like you're getting the work done, the type of work that you like. You don't feel like you're getting promotions. There are no opportunities there. Lots of different reasons. So I put together a list here of things both that are things to look for in a company if you have choice, and things you can do if things don't seem to be going well for you. So they're kind of in haphazard order, and I'll just go through them. All right. So first of all, if you're looking for a good place to work, you want an environment where you can learn. I think that is by far the most important thing about a work environment, is a place where you can learn. And in my opinion, most engineers are in the field because they love to learn, they love to do new things, they love challenges, and you want to be in a place where you can learn. And that means usually that they have people there who you can learn from. So if you go into a company where you're the most senior person around, it's not necessarily a learning environment. Could be, but you'd have to check and make sure that it really is a good learning environment in other ways. But usually you're going to look for a place that has peers that you will respect, and that you can learn from. Okay. All right. You want to find a company that has high expectations of the code it creates. I've worked at too many companies where they didn't care how good the code was, and those, after a while, they get very difficult, because most of the time when we're writing software, we're improving, fixing, adding enhancements to existing code. And if they don't care the quality of the code, then you're going to go into new code and work on it, and it's going to be terrible, and it's going to be hard to work, and it's just going to be unenjoyable. There are actually a lot of companies around, especially small ones, that don't care how good the code is. All they care is, can I sell it? Okay, so if you can find a company that really values high quality code, that's great. By the way, in the early days, a company that had high expectations of its code was Google, and a company that did not care one way or the other was Microsoft. Microsoft had a reputation for having very poor quality, buggy code, and the people who were working there were just very frustrated with it. Whereas people loved working at Google because they knew that they were treated well and valued when they wrote high quality code. All right. Prefer a company that emphasizes providing value to its customers. So the company's goal is to have customers who love using their products because they'll pay for them. Okay, so your company should emphasize providing value to its customers. I put this one on here. I didn't actually understand the importance of that until recently. I was having a talk with my friend who was a director at Amazon. And he said, we always start at Amazon, we start every technical meeting starts with, what does the customer want? Oh, interesting. We didn't do that at Google. We started with, what is the technical challenge we're trying to solve? And so at Google, the emphasis was not on providing value to our customers, it was on making the engineers happy and make them realize or feel like that they're doing fun, exciting, challenging things. But at Google, we didn't really care what the customer thought. And you can tell if you compare Google's products from a customer satisfaction standpoint to like Amazon's customer satisfaction, it's night and day difference in how it goes. So Google will produce software that does amazing things, but it's often very, very challenging and difficult to use. Whereas Amazon, especially Apple focuses very, very much on that end user experience and not on they don't really care what the engineers are getting out of it. They care what the customers are getting. And that's a very important thing to have. Okay. All right. Another one. Getting along with your coworkers is important. This is where I was supposed to tell that story. I got ahead of myself. I forgot where it was. But getting along with your coworkers is important. You don't need to like them. You just need to know how to work with them. Okay, good. So I can skip that one. I've already talked about it. Now, what happens? Things aren't going well. Things aren't going well for me. I'm not getting the promotions I want. I'm not getting the respect that I wish I had, and so on and so on. So what do you do? What do you do? The very first thing you want to do when things aren't going well for you is ask
yourself why.
Is it me? Yes, exactly. Is it me? Am I the problem? Because it's surprisingly difficult to answer that question honestly. And even if you answer it honestly, it's surprisingly difficult to assess your own self. Sometimes you have to go ask a friend. And but you just need to look at yourself. If you end up being treated badly in this team, and then again on that team, and then again on that team, and then again on that team, is it really the team or is it you? Okay. So something you really need to stop and think about. Is there something I need to be doing to do better? All right. So that's the first thing you do. Now, suppose you come to the realization that it's not you. Then what do? What's the next thing you can do? So I had once at Google, I had an employee, an engineer who was pretty new to the team. And I think he was new to Google as well. And he just was not doing well as an engineer. And I was sitting there starting to think, am I going to have to let him go? And I wasn't quite sure what to do. And we would have all these conversations and we'd say, okay, let's find. And finally I hit on, let's look for other opportunities for you. So we talked about what do you like doing and so on. And I ended up suggesting that he actually switch from being a developer to being a project manager. And he did that, and he did quite well as a project manager. So that was one way out, was to just stay within the industry, stay within the company, but shift. Another one is other teams within the company. After I'd had my team up and going for a while, I was quite flattered when I'd have quite a few people come to me and say, things aren't going well in my team. Can I join yours? Your team is awesome, and I would love to work there. So we'd do some research and decide whether or not we thought they would really thrive, and we'd often bring them in, and they would thrive. Wow, aren't we awesome? And then, in order to keep my ego in check, I discovered that the opposite was also happening. Some of the people on my team who were not doing well would shift to another team, and there they would thrive. And I began to realize that it's not necessarily just that our team was great, though it was. Not necessarily just our team was great. It's that people thrive in different environments, different work modes, different work environments, different people, different assignments, different things they're doing. So that may be you. So if you can't do it there, try a different team. Try a different team. It's so much easier, so much less stressful to move to a different team in the same company than it is to shift companies. Shifting companies is hard. And it's not always going to work out like you think it's going to. I have a friend who was at Amazon, struggled with this. He shifted to a different team, still didn't like it, shifted to Microsoft, and he found out that he hates Microsoft. I went, okay, so shifting companies is hard. All right. And it's not always going to work out as like you think it will. All right. So try different teams before you try a different company. All right. Next. I've decided I really, really need to move. I need to change companies. What am I going to do? Well, first of all, make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date. So I suggest that about once a year, you go into your LinkedIn and you update the profile. I also suggest you set the willing to look for a new job, even if you're not currently looking for a new job. Set it, keep it set. Your company, somebody on your company may notice it. You say, oh, I just do that. You get a lot of emails, a lot of opportunities that come up. And even if you're happy where you are, something may come along that surprises you. I think I told the story about my shift to the company that was bought by Google. Maybe not. So first, before I get into that, about 80% of all jobs are sourced through LinkedIn. So you want to really pay good attention to your LinkedIn profile and make sure it's up to date and looking good. So I was working for a startup company. Things were going really well. I had forged a good relationship with a recruiter at a previous company, and I was happy where I was working, and I thought we had a good chance of success. This recruiter called me up and he said, "Hey, Robert, I have an opportunity for you." And he described it to me, and I said, "Yeah, I'm really not interested. I'm happy where I am. I don't think that I want to. I want to give this company a shot, because I think they can be successful." And his response was, "Robert, if you knew what I know about this company, you would at least interview." Okay, well, I trusted him. I knew him. I trusted him. I thought, okay, fine. It can't hurt to just go interview. So I would go into the interview, and I find books and things lying around on the desk. They had signed non-disclosure agreements, so they weren't allowed to say anything. But they did leave things out that made it obvious that this small company was in the process of being acquired by Google. And I thought, okay, Google is an awesome place to be. Everybody wants to go work there. This is an opportunity for me actually to get into Google without having to go through their grueling interview process. And so I accepted their offer. It was too good to pass up. And so I accepted their offer. 3 or 4 months later, the purchase was finalized, and I became a Google employee. And that has had a huge impact on me and my career. So you may find out that an offer comes along that is just too good to pass up. So even if you're happy where you are, you're not looking for a new job, I suggest that you keep your LinkedIn profile up to date, and that you keep the willing to be contacted by recruiters flags all set. All right. Now, I am going to say this, that first job that you go out and get is going to be the hardest one of your career. It'll be by far the most difficult one you go through. Sorry, but that's what's life. That's life. Once you have a job, it's much, much easier to find a new job in a different company. Much, much easier. One problem you'll have is if you decide you're in a company and you want to switch, don't quit. If you quit and then go out looking, the first thing that the employers are going to say is, why did you leave? Why did you quit? What happened? And they'll be suspicious. They might not even interview you because they'll think you got fired. They'll think you can say I got laid off, that one's okay. They'll think you got fired. They'll think that you left because of you're petty or whatever. And I have to have those kind of situations happen to people we talk
Petty?
to.
What is that?
Petty.
Petty.
I get annoyed by things that don't really matter.
Oh,
Okay. All right. So anyway, it's very hard to give a good answer to that question. Why did you leave?
yeah.
If you say I left because the company was a jerk and treated me badly, they'll think, oh, well, maybe we're no better than they are. So it's just hard to come up with one. And then if you start looking for work elsewhere, you need to have a good answer to the question, why are you willing to change? I faced this when I was thinking of leaving Google, and just about every interview I went to, they would ask, why do you want to leave Google? And so I had to have a very good answer to that question. And I ended up actually not leaving Google at that time. I left a little later. But anyway, people don't want to hire anyone who is likely to leave. So they're looking for that. They're looking to make sure, how loyal are you? How much will you really work for us? Will you enjoy it here? And those questions are very important to them. And so you want to be somebody who is just, loves to work places, loves to get things done. And if the company is good, you want to stay there and you want to help them be successful. That's what they're looking for. So be one of those people. All right. So that's it on my career lecture. Any questions from anyone? All right. I didn't expect so. Okay. So that's it. Let me turn off the recording.